As you are coming in, I'd love to know where you are calling in from. So please write down the city, states, country even. I know we got some registrants from the Philippines and some, quite far away places. So I don't know what time zone that would be, but please feel free to just write in where you're calling from. Great, New York City, love it. Omaha, New Orleans, Los Angeles. So we got a couple of LA people. Chicago, always love Chicago. Ottawa, LA. Yeah, we got some good representation for you, Paul. You're LA. Inglewood, good, good. Birmingham, Alabama, love it. I always love when we do webinars and people from all over. That means you're coming in with unique perspectives, with different teaching styles. Can't say enough how much it matters. You all calling in. Great. I know now we're about 5-6 minutes behind, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started, okay? So if I can take over slide sharing. Perfect. All right. Well, my name is Tamor Ashkan, and I'll be the host of this webinar, How to Teach Entrepreneurship, part of Intuit's Entrepreneurship Month. I'm really happy to be calling you all from Mexico City at the moment. I'm actually doing the whole remote work thing. So adding another country to our list of places that people are going to be working in from. Intuit Entrepreneurship Month is part of a series, is including a series of webinars that we're doing this month to really bring to bear the resources that we have, the free classroom resources that we have at Intuit to help make entrepreneurship more accessible for you, the teacher, if you're a teacher, administrator, partner, and for your students, right? Especially nowadays, we're seeing so many young people defer, the traditional work environment to starting side hustles, to starting businesses. And I really, I'm always amazed by the creativity and ingenuity of, of young people, and really kudos to teachers to helping build some of that confidence in them. So the webinar today is about how to build confidence. A little bit about me. I'm the strategic partner manager, a very fancy title. Doesn't mean too much other than I get to talk with amazing teachers and nonprofit partners and education partners to help deliver these resources. Intuit cannot do it alone. Intuit cares about powering prosperity around the world, but we know that honestly, the pioneers of that are teachers like yourselves. So I truly mean that. I was actually a former teacher myself for a couple of years. I worked at nonprofits in workforce and education and immigration. So it matters a lot to me, and I'm really, really happy to be able to actually co-host this webinar with two really wonderful teachers. I'm going to actually kick it over to one of them right now to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Elliott. I'm a teacher at Centennial High School in Bakersfield, California. I got my business degree back in 2007 from CSUB, California State University, Bakersfield. And this is my 14th year teaching business. And I'll kind of go into what led me into teaching business later on in another slide. But hello, everyone.
Hi there. Thank you, Jackie. And then our second teacher, Paul.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Paul Saley. I teach at Downtown Business Magnet in LA, so Los Angeles. I have my bachelor's degree, got it back in 1984, which was a long time ago. I worked in business for quite a bit, all different aspects of it, from finance to customer service to human resources. So I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, but I'm good at everything basically. And I got my master's degree back in 2019 in business administration with a focus in project management. I've been a teacher now for 16 years myself. I quite enjoy the process and I love teaching.
Yeah, Amazing. You have some amazing educator influencers here, and you also have me. So we're going to be running this webinar together. We also have 3 students, and I'll introduce them later this webinar. They are Paul's students, and I really want to emphasize that when we're talking about teaching entrepreneurship, it's really important to have empathy and ground our kind of, learnings on what students need, right? So I'm really quite grateful to Paul to inviting his students in for this webinar, and I'm gonna look forward to introducing them soon. So a little bit about Intuit. You might be thinking, why does Intuit care about entrepreneurship? What does it matter to Intuit? We care a lot, right? Our resources, our products, you see at the bottom, TurboTax, Credit Karma, QuickBooks, and MailChimp. A lot of it has to do with finance, but also a lot of it has to do with building financial independence and supporting small business owners, right, to start a business. A lot of times we see the pathway to starting a business as very difficult. There are a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of resources that are needed to start one. And we just want to make it a little bit easier for an individual to do that. So what we have here are 2 resources that I want to highlight that we use with classrooms around the country to help around the country and around the world to help teachers. So one is QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is a bookkeeping accounting tool. It is really a great resource for a small business owner to have mastery of their own finances, data of their own bookkeeping, right? To help make informed decisions about their business and to be able to, understand their cash flow, their invoices, and have a sustainable growth, right? A lot of the times before they would just outsource it to a bookkeeper, and which is totally fine as well. But what we do is we give the small business owner mastery of and autonomy and independence of their own bookkeeping. And then we have Design for Delight, which is a design thinking resource, a methodology for problem solving that we here at Intuit use to develop our products, right? A lot of other Silicon Valley companies have the same. It is an important tool, methodology that is used to not only problem solve, but to build products, right? The phone that you have in your hand, the laptop or your computer or iPad that you're watching this from, everything is developed using design thinking. And what we do is we actually open source it, open it up, to classrooms to use ours, right? So they can actually take components of it and use it for their own business and entrepreneurship classes. Both of these resources are listed on our website, and I'm happy to share that with you after this webinar. There's also opportunity to take certifications, exams, which you'd get a voucher for. So it's $100 value that you don't have to pay. And I would say for QuickBooks, for example, if you get a certification, there's about 400,000 job openings right now that needs QuickBooks certs, right? And the average salary is like $40 to $60. It's quite crazy. Sometimes I consider doing it myself. And then the second is Design for Delight, also 100,000 job openings needed for design thinking. A really great opportunity to put on your resume. And I know a lot of teachers that we've worked with have used both of these. So just wanted to make sure we highlight those. Right now, what I want to do is I'm going to kick it off to Jackie to share a bit about more detail about her journey as a teacher and give some, insight into how she teaches entrepreneurship in the classroom. So I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So just some questions of how I got started in teaching. I used to work for Target as a manager after I graduated from college. And it didn't take me long to realize it was not the right career fit for me. So I thought long and hard about what I wanted to do, and I decided I wanted to go into teaching. I'm so thankful I had that experience, though, because it helps me be a better business teacher. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. A lot of people in our district that teach business were in the corporate world at some point, but it just makes us like better teachers, which is awesome. So although it wasn't right career path for me, I'm glad I had the experience. So I've been teaching ever since. Again, this is my 14th year teaching. I teach an intro to computer class for freshmen at my school, where we teach them typing, email, Microsoft Word, Excel, Google Drive, Google Docs, slideshows, career, college readiness, all of that crammed into a semester. And I think that foundational skills are so important for our kids to still get these days. I know a lot of people want to say, oh, kids have computer skills like innately, but some don't. So I love teaching that class. And then I also teach Virtual Enterprise, which is a competitive business simulation course. And that class is just really awesome. I'll get into that in a little more detail in a minute. But I love teaching business because I like giving kids hands-on skills, real world skills that I know they're going to use in their future. Either class that I teach, I know that they're getting real world skills that are going to benefit them and they're going to use in their future. So if you've never heard of Virtual Enterprise, you can always check out their website. I have it at the bottom there, veinternational.org. But it is a business simulation course where students simulate running a company for the year. So I'm actually going to talk about my team's company from last year. So if we can go to the next slide, I'll just get into that. So again, each year my team decides to run a new company, and actually in Virtual Enterprise, the students can continue other companies, but mine always want to develop their own business, which understandably, and they use D4D to ideate what their company is going to be and all the details of it. So they pitch ideas to each other. They work in teams and pitch business ideas, and then they're all pitched, and then they vote on what their company is going to be for that year. So last year, our company was Middle Ground. It was a political, social media, and educational app for teenagers to really help find the middle ground in politics, which I'm sure we can all agree was and still is a need. There is a need for that. And honestly, anytime we would pitch this to judges, they would be like, oh yeah, like, man, there's a need for that right now, right? So we definitely, when we're coming up with business ideas and they're ideating, it's what is relevant at this time? What is a need, right? So they have to think about that. And in this company, they all take positions. So they go through interviews and they take positions within the company. So we have a CEO and we have a finance department ran by our CFO, and they use QuickBooks. And then we have our operations department ran by our COO. And then we have our marketing department ran by our CMO. So we do 3 main departments, but if you teach Virtual Enterprise, you can really structure that however you want. And then these kids really day in, day out are working on their positions within the company. So there is, and again, Virtual Enterprise is the teachers get to kind of choose how you run your program. So different teachers might run it very differently. But for me, I'm not teaching the class in a traditional sense. Like, I'm not getting up and giving a lesson and here's our assignment for today and here's our test. Like, there's no tests in the class. We compete. We do competitions. That's their test, right? And everybody's doing different work because my marketing people are going to be doing different work than my finance people, than my HR team, right? Than my PR team, right? So everybody's working on different things for the company. And I just love it because that's how the real world is, right? Like, you don't go work for Intuit and everybody's doing the exact same thing today, right? Everybody's doing different things and working on different tasks. So it's very real world, and they're very collaborative. They learn very quickly that departments are not isolated, that they have to work. Like, finance is going to have to work with operations, and they're going to have to work with marketing. And so they become like a team. They are a team. Very much a team, a collaborative team. It teaches them communication skills, teaches them problem solving skills, critical thinking skills. So I just love it so much. It's such a cool class if you've never heard of Virtual Enterprise before. So my students last year were very successful in their company. We qualified for nationals. So in Virtual Enterprise, the top 8 teams in the state of California, or our Western region, qualify for the national competition, which is in New York City. And for all of us in California, that's a big deal for them to go to New York. So they want to work really hard to go. And then they competed at nationals, and our business plan team placed 5th. in the nation. So they give a 10-minute presentation all about their business. And then they have to do Q&A with the judges. So they have to be prepared for whatever question is going to come their way. And then our marketing team placed second at nationals as well. So that team was separate, and you can see pictures of them at the bottom. On the left is our business plan team. In the middle is our marketing team. And on the right is our finance team. And so our finance team placed second at nationals as well. So they did an outstanding job. Very proud of them. They worked really hard. And if you see at the bottom right, there's actually a picture of the Middle Ground app. So when they say they're an app company, they actually had to develop that app, which is really cool. I know nothing about app development, but guess what? They figure it out, which is what I think is so cool about this class too. And just like, you know, any entrepreneur, like if you want to start a business, you figure it out. You know, and they have to problem solve and figure it out, like figure out how to use QuickBooks, figure out how to do an app development, right? Figure out these things. And that's why I love that class too, because they have to be self-driven and critical thinkers and problem solvers, and they're figuring out how to do these things. And that's why I love it. So I don't know if that's anything else?
Great. No,
Okay.
that's wonderful. And I will say, you know, from Intuit, we're a proud partner of Virtual Enterprise. They're a great nonprofit, great organization. Shout out to Virtual Enterprise, anyone who's on this call right now. I'm going to spur a question on you, Jackie, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to just let the audience know we're welcoming questions, but we probably will answer them towards the end. So you're welcome to ask questions, but we'll try to save them for the end, okay? I'm looking at these students, and, you know, it's wonderful. And I've actually been able to judge these competitions. These students work really, really hard throughout the year. I wonder, how do you, you know, what if you come up in a situation where a student is like, you know, nervous, like, I don't know if I want to do business, or I don't want to do entrepreneurship. I'm a little bit nervous to do these competitions. How do you encourage those who are like on the fence to do something like this, to just try it out? You know, what, you know, especially, you know, if I was a student, I'd be on the fence to do something like this, but I can see the impact for sure.
Well, I think it depends on your program. Like, I'm recruiting kids that want to be in this program, that want to be competitive, that want to compete. But I definitely have had kids who maybe it's not their natural ability to get up and present. Like, I'm going to point out, if you look at the third team, the last team on the right, okay, the tall guy, Spencer, he was not a natural presenter. He wasn't naturally good at it, and he struggled with it, and he knew that. We all knew that, but we worked on it, and he improved so much over the span of a few months, and they placed second at nationals. And I just got to see that growth, and you could tell he was so proud of himself, but even more so, the whole team was so proud of him, because the whole team got to see his growth over those few months. And like he kind of stepped up to be on that team, to participate in that competition. It's just really neat to see kids growth. And just, I think that if you were talking to the kids, they would say how rewarding it is for them. So, and I always have kids at the end of the school year write letters of advice for next year's team, who's going to be in their position. And I had kids last year say, if you have a chance to be on a competition team, do it, because they got to see, like, yes, those teams put in a lot of hard work, but they learned a lot. Sorry, my lights turn off.
No problem. Saving energy. We're saving energy here.
But they get to see like how rewarding it is for those kids to be on the competition team, to do well, but also like get the experience to present to business professionals in our community, to get to work with Intuit, right? So they just get a lot out of the competition experience, and gain skills. So I would just say to someone that's timid is like, but you're going to get a lot out of it. It's going to be worth it in the long run. And you got to be brave, you know, and you can do it.
Right. Sorry, I went a bit fast there, but we did get a question, and it's related to the question I asked. So I want to make sure that question, I can just ask it to you. I'm curious about motivating students. Sometimes students have interests, but presentation and time dedication might seem overwhelming. Is there a way you encourage those students? So especially those with limited time.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen it on both sides. I've seen students who have nothing else going on, and this is what they latch onto and they love it. I have a student this year who's an example of that. And his mom's like, thank you so much for giving him something to do, because you can tell she wants him to have something to do, right? So that's great. But then on the flip side, I have students who are involved in mock trial competitions, that are also in ASB, that are also in this and that, whatever. And they're so busy. But those are the driven type kids. So I have it both ways. And they just have to be able to like manage their time. If they're choosing to be involved in a lot of stuff, I just have to front load them with like the expectations of our program. But honestly, with virtual enterprise, it's teacher driven, and you can choose to run your program however you want to run it. It could just be what's done in classes, and that's it. You know, my kids are putting in extra time outside of class because they're trying to do well in the competition. So I think it just depends on your program. And again, I think motivating the kids is, hey, like in virtual enterprise, if we qualify for nationals, we get to go to New York. It's a huge motivator for my kids. But even so, we have competitions at different places, and that motivates them too. Hey, we get to go to San Diego and go to a trade show in San Diego. And so getting them to go on these field trips is a big motivator, but you have to have kids that are intrinsically motivated, that want to do well in competition.
Yeah, definitely. I'll give a quick anecdote and then I'll hand it over to Paul. But you just reminded me, you know, we ran our own competition, Intuit Social Innovation Challenge, and part of that allowed a one student team to attend a conference in Boston. And those students, and they were high school students, most of them had never left their city, right? Right. And it was such a big deal for them to go somewhere, to fly somewhere. So even that.
Yeah, I've had kids who have never flown on an airplane before.
Yeah.
Last year, my CEO had never been on an airplane before. It's so neat to be able to give that experience to people, to kids. And I saw somebody ask who pays for it. We fundraise. We do have to do a lot of fundraising. And that's just part of, you know, I think anytime you take kids on field trips, it entails fundraising.
Yeah,
but if some people want to reach out to me about fundraising ideas, I definitely have a lot. Luckily, our community is very supportive. My kids have worked on getting corporate sponsors this year, and we fundraised over $5,000 already this year alone. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I think when you teach business, it's easy to get community businesses to support you, because they know that this is their next generation of employees, right? So, and just like Intuit wants to support our entrepreneurs, because they're going to then use Intuit products one day or eventually go work for Intuit, right? So it's great getting the community support.
Yeah, they're representing your community. These students are, you know, you never know what they're going to end up being one day, right? They're always going to be able to give back at some point. So I really thank you. We're gonna invite you back again to speak in the discussion part. I know I jumped ahead and had showed the students a little bit, but Paul, I want to actually introduce you. I'm going to turn off these slides. I mean, have you introduce yourself and kind of walk us through your journey as a business teacher, your journey teaching business entrepreneurship, and especially in your school, and any kind of insights or anecdotes you have about that.
Okay. Actually, this is my not my first year teaching entrepreneurship, but at this particular school, it's my first year teaching entrepreneurship. I introduced this program this year, and one of the reasons why I did that was business is about entrepreneurship. When you think about it, it encompasses every aspect of business: the design, the creativity, the management, the accounting, the financials, everything. Sort of, as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades. You have to be a master of all of them? Not necessarily. That's where you can learn to hire people to do the things that you don't know how to do. What I love teaching entrepreneurship, at least my journey getting into this, started at a different school. It started at a different high school, Jefferson High School, where I was asked to teach the business classes over there. So entrepreneurship, which was what we call the concentrated class, and then virtual enterprise, what Jackie is teaching was the capstone class to it. I got to teach both. So I listening to Jackie, I was like, yeah, we've done all that. I quite understand what she had to go through and that journey there. The entrepreneurship journey was to create an environment that students could experiment, test hypothesis, see what works, what doesn't work, how to deal with problems, how to overcome issues. So to me, that class is great for challenging the creativity of a student. It's great for challenging the outside of the box thinking, which we desperately need these days. How do we solve today's problems with the technology that we have? How do we look outside the box? How can we be creative in solving problems that we're not creating other problems from it? So I love teaching entrepreneurship. That's one of my like, I get up in the morning, I get excited about it, when it's my entrepreneurship class, which doesn't mean that I don't get excited about my other classes, don't get me wrong, but it's the class that really, these kids are going to experience every little aspect of what business is like, and they're going to get that exposure, and they could decide where they want to go from that. Okay, so it gives them a great foundation. And then, I mean, being in business, I've been on the corporate side for 20 years before coming to teaching. Okay, so I'm kind of giving away my age, but I've noticed that every day you're solving problems in the business environment. It could be small problems, it could be big problems, it could be huge problems, but you got to solve these problems, and then you got to get up and get them working and get them implemented. And entrepreneurship just does that for these kids, right? It gets them thinking about, okay, this is not a problem now. I can solve this. Okay, so this is just a speed bump. All right. The other aspect of it is they can look at problems and they can look at it as not a problem. This is an opportunity now for me to do something. Okay. Often we complain about stuff, but we just sit on the side and complain about it. But if we have that initiative, that creativity to say, hey, I could solve this by just doing X, Y, and Z, and then putting it into practice. Okay. So my students right now, they're at that point where they've kind of developed a product or a service that they want, and they're now thinking about the financials. How much is it going to cost them to do it? All right. What are they going to need to make it actually happen? And they're going to keep on that venture. The next step. Well, who's going to buy this product? If anybody's going to buy it, who's going to buy it, right? So we're looking at the fan base, at the target markets. We're going to be looking at how do I market to these people? Where are they? What's the best way to market to these people? So I also teach an intro to business class that I also teach, what social media marketing is like, and and how it works. So I'm going to bring some of that into the program as well to sort of teach them how do you get in contact with our customers. So to me, entrepreneurship is just so exciting. And then they also get an opportunity, just like the VI students, they get an opportunity to compete. All right. I haven't broke that to these guys yet, but I don't want to scare them, because sometimes they get scared when they say, "What, do I have to go and pitch this?" All right. Yep, you're going to have to pitch it. But even if they don't, they've learned so much. They will learn so much by the end of this year. And I hope that they compete. And like I said, this is my first year teaching this at this particular school, so I don't have any references as far as this school is concerned as like wins or this sort of stuff. But even at my old school, students tried, they competed, and they come back with a whole different outlook after they've competed, whether they won or they didn't win. They realize, wow, there's so much more I could do with this, right? And some of them take the reins and they try to do it. And that's what we want to do. We want to encourage the next generation of businesses, the next generation of employees, right? How often have you been asked maybe to solve a problem for your business, right? Or solve a problem for the situation? Well, that's what we call entrepreneurship, right? Where you're doing it internally in the business, where you're coming up with the next product or the next service or the next, or solving a solution. Solving a problem with a solution. So they're not just walking away with a grade, they're walking away with a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge, and they're going to be that much better at whatever they decide to do in the future, because everything is business.
Wow. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. I really do want to bring in the question that I asked Jackie to you, because I think it's really relevant, especially as your first year teaching and you have students on this call right now. How do you motivate students, right? How do you motivate those students who are, shy, nervous? They're, they don't know if they're an entrepreneur. They don't know what they want to be in their future. How do you package this to them? Like, why is this important for them to learn?
Well, I show them the skills that they're trying to learn, or I'm trying to teach them as well, right? I show them how this is going to help them in the future, right? I try to connect the dots for them. I try to make that connection between what we're teaching in the classroom and what they're going to be using in the real world, and how close this is to what we're actually doing, right? So that's one way to kind of motivate them, that I'm not just teaching them a bunch of stuff, right? That's what I think they feel about with a lot of the classes. Why do I have to memorize this? Why do I have to learn this? Why, what's the purpose of knowing algebra 2, this sort of stuff? But when they see it in practice and they see how, oh, this is what I need to help solve this problem or to get ahead in what I want to do, I think that's the real connection, and that helps motivate them to, oh, maybe I need to learn this. Maybe I need to settle on and like really focus on this. Because sometimes they go astray. This song's boring. I don't want to listen to this. But then, you got to kind of show them, hey, this is important. This is what's going to help you get to where you want to go. So I guess also knowing your students, knowing what they want in life, all right, I think helps you, because then you can say, well, if you do this, this is what you're going to get. And if what you're going to get is what you want, why not do it? I always tell them, hey, you're going to be doing things that you don't like to do in a job, but you still have to do it. Okay. I hate grading. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I don't lie to my students about it, but I still have to do it. Right. And I do it. I do it because I know my kids need to know how they're progressing in class. I know the parents definitely want to know what's going on. And of course, the district. But to me, grading is so secondary compared to having them learn that knowledge, that base that they will take with them throughout. And I've had students in my past school, which I also taught the entrepreneurship class there, come back to me. One contacted me just about a month ago, saying, I got this great business idea. She's working on a business plan to show it to me to see, if she needs to improve it or what she needs to improve it. She graduated 2 years ago, so I'm glad to see that happening. And because I always tell them at the end of the course, it's like, if you want to reach out to me and you want to do something, I'm here for you, right? Because I do you're talking about side jobs, right? I do advisory for small businesses, right? I usually charge them an arm and a leg for that. Well, a small arm and a leg. But for my students, hey, I'll do it for free. It's like, I want to get you where you need to be, and I'm not going to hold back knowledge just because. As it is, I teach them, as I tell them a lot of times, I teach them everything I teach them in the classroom. I actually would take with go to a business person that needs help, and I teach them the same thing. How to deal with the problem, how to get over a solution, how to brainstorm, and how to solve the problem that they have. So that's kind of how I get them motivated to do stuff.
I mean, I see Jackie nodding her head, and I'm sure a lot of teachers on here are nodding their heads. I think students might be surprised that teachers don't spend Friday nights grading papers. I mean, maybe some of them do, but you have other things you'd rather be doing on a Friday night, right? Grading than grading things. I mean, the amount of hours and resources the teacher puts in for student success, and that's why it's incumbent on companies like Intuit. And I know, we can even be doing more than we're doing right now. And I think a lot of this is learning from us, right, on how we can do better. And I'm going to ask you all about what companies can do and resources that we offer, how can we make it more impactful. But I don't want to forget about the students. The students are very important. So I'm going to share my screen again and have the students start turning on their cameras and coming online. So if the students, Derek, Elva, Joshua, if you want to start turning on your cameras and joining us. Might take 12 minutes. Hi there.
Shall I go first?
Waiting for one more student. There we go. How are you all doing? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Doing great.
Good to hear it.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you all introduce yourself. So please introduce yourself, what grade you're in, and your superpower. So maybe we go first with Derek.
I am in. I'm actually a junior.
Okay.
And
We'll fix that right up
uh,
live. We'll fix this live.
my superpower, would it just be like any superpower I want?
Yeah, anything you want.
Uh, I think I choose super speed.
Okay. Love
Yeah.
it. You can also use that to turn back time too, apparently. I didn't know that
Of course.
until recently, which is also useful. Thank you, Derek. Elva?
Yeah, so I'm also a junior, and I think my superpower would be teleportation. I love getting places quick. I don't like waiting.
Smart. And for traveling too. I love traveling, but I don't like flying when I get there fast. Good stuff. Thank you, Elva. And Joshua.
Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm a junior, and I think what my superpower would be, I think the power to stop time.
Power to stop time. Okay, it looks like you and Derek are gonna have this is like a nemesis thing going on here. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, these incredible students are joining us for a webinar on a Tuesday late afternoon over there. So I really want to thank them. I'm sure thank you for your time. And you all are Paul's students. So I want to thank again, Paul, for inviting your great students to join us. I do want to open this conversation up to the group, but I will kick off with a question for you three, Elva, Joshua, and Derek. We talked a lot about motivation. How do you motivate students, right? What drives you the most to learn entrepreneurship, to actually be invested in this? What is a great motivating factor for you all? And I don't know, whoever wants to go first. Don't want to call any names.
I think my biggest thing is just wanting to help my community, because I do live in like a low income community. So just seeing these struggles really pushes me to like want to do better for the next generation. And so I always just want to give back, you know?
Great, love the altruism. Derek, Joshua?
Yeah, I think adding on to what Elva said, I think I want to go a little more broad and just help like people in general. Just like any basic needs that might need to be met, or yeah, just anything like that, basically.
Okay. Cool. Joshua, do you feel something?
Something that motivates me.
Yeah.
Honestly, just to keep it simple, I just enjoy it. I enjoy the idea of selling to people, having to convince someone to say, or just more so to say, hey, buy my product, why you should buy it.
Yeah. There's definitely that rush. I'm sure. I'm struck definitely by your answers on giving back to the community. I want to just ask Paul, Jackie, is that something you've seen evolve over time with students? Are students more interested in giving back to community? How would you encourage that? I mean, that's a very important factor in entrepreneurship. I just want to hear your thoughts, hearing the students kind of talking about their motivation.
Yeah, I can go. I could talk a little bit about that. Yeah, I noticed that is a trend. Well, I shouldn't say a trend, but common thread with a lot of the students. For the years that I've been teaching entrepreneurship, which has been about 4 or 5 years now teaching entrepreneurship, a great percentage of the students always concerned about the community. So that says something right there. And it also says like we're not doing enough, because if for 5 years I've been saying the same thing over and over, then yes, the community is has a great need and it needs to be addressed. But a lot of times we find that to address a community, you're talking about like probably a nonprofit organization, which is a little bit harder to fundraise for and that sort of stuff. So you always have to come with, well, create a product that you can then sell and you can make so this is what I kind of teach kids. create something that you can sell, that you can then now take some of that profit and give it back to the community. As a lot of these big corporations like your corporation does, Intuit does, you look at Microsoft, you look at Apple, you look at Target, Walmart, all these corporations give back something to the community in some form or fashion. They have deep pockets too. So, well, maybe not too deep, but they have deep enough pockets that they can do that. And so creating something, if you really want to help the communities, create something that the community can use, but also that you could also then create a profit that you can then give back to the community in large quantities. So I'd like sell a sneaker, buy a, give a sneaker. Those kind of philosophies, right? I think that speaks volumes. That the community is everything to us, and we need to be able to support the community. And if through these small businesses, through these small jobs, you can do that, that's what we need to do.
I think you've just seen a big trend in big companies having a CSR, whatever that is, and they could be of all facets. That could be donating money, but it could be having their employees volunteer in some way. It could be that we're using eco-friendly products, right? Or packaging, right? So I think you see the kids seeing that in the corporate world, right? But they know that too, right? We have to, at the end of the day, a business is there to make money, right? And they have to know that, but also how can we make money, but also give back to our community or better the community we're a part of, and just and teaching the kids ethics, right? Running a company ethically and, not being a drain on our environment, right? How can we help with that? So I just think you see the kids saying that. And I think that is true for organizations. They know it's important to millennials and younger generations.
Yeah. It's a trend that we're seeing as well. So I think, and reading some of the comments here from Darren as well, talking about how he has students working on challenges of the country. So it definitely resonates. Another question I want to ask students is, and I know your teacher's here, so he might be looking at you, but what have you learned so far this year that has really kind of maybe impacted you a lot? What is something you can share that you've learned this year in class?
I guess I'll start off again. One of the biggest things that I've learned was just using my creativity. So I think he shared this story about how one time in the night he got this really good idea, so he just hopped out of bed and wrote it on a journal. That really stuck with me because now whenever I get good ideas, I write it on my notes app and I develop it when I have more time. Yeah.
Great. That's a good tip. Thank you. Derek or Joshua, do you have any thoughts? Yeah, please go ahead.
Would you mind repeating the question for me?
Yeah, of course. Just share something you've learned this year in class that has kind of resonated with you or impacted you.
Of course. Something I've learned. I learned that the price may, I believe my teacher said, make or break the company or product that we are trying to create. And I think that's really important because I think that you can apply that to anything you do in the real world. Let's say you're trying to buy a car or something, right? You got to see how much money you need to invest into this and then see if it'll actually what's the word? I'm sorry. If it'll
don't worry.
If it'll benefit you in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a good lesson, right? Well, I guess your teacher is doing something well, right? I love the feedback you all are sharing. Thank you, Derek. Joshua.
One thing I think I've definitely learned is that I think something can always be improved. I think that even though we have small solutions to each of our problems, I think that there's better ways that we can solve something more efficient, that we can always do something more. And that we looked at a lot of the nifty challenges, which is something we use in class. And I think that even though one of us can choose like the same category of a problem to fix, I think each one of us has a different idea, and I think each one is unique to each person.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Thank you, Josh. Um, I I'd love to hear a little bit about how you've taken what you learned and implemented in your day-to-day life, or maybe in other classes, or just other parts of your life. I know, Elva, you mentioned the notes, right? Is there anything else you can share about, how this might have affected your mindset about how you study, or how anything? Just kind of curious how one embodies entrepreneurship in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, so this class has definitely like helped me like be more creative in my classes. So like when I'm doing history homework or English homework, it's like I feel like I have more ideas that I can expand on. And it also helps me like stay organized, because one of the biggest things is being organized, because you can't develop something if you don't know what you're developing. So it's definitely kept me like on schedule with my schoolwork. Yeah.
Really dope. That's great, and it resonates as well. We're hoping that entrepreneurship skills can be expanded in other parts of your life, and you just shared that, so that's amazing. Derek, Joshua, do you have something similar that you'd like to share?
Yeah, this class has definitely improved my organizational skills, and as well as my creativity, as she was saying. I think I can come up with more solutions to a problem now, thanks to this class. It's just helped my brain like work around it, try to be creative with it, you know?
Nice. It's a multifaceted class.
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek.
Something I've learned is just procrastination in general.
Mhm.
I don't like doing my schoolwork. I
Mhm.
don't enjoy it, but I think that just the I think this class has helped me to finish it at the end of the day. Because if I don't finish it, I'm not benefiting from it, and I can benefit from it later on.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the honesty, Joshua. I read somewhere, a few places, and I know maybe your teachers might disagree, but about procrastination sometimes lead to some creativity, right? Because you have to finish it very last minute. So it might work. But I appreciate that honesty. I think my last question, and again, I do want to make sure that our attendees have a chance to ask questions as well. But a question I have, and I'm going to open up to students, and then I would love the teachers to also weigh in, is what more can we do? And we, I say collective, like it could be your school, it could be your the district that you're in, it could be companies like Intuit, right? If you're talking to like CEOs, right, and they're looking at supporting students more, what would you say to them? Like how better can they support you to be successful in your class and in your future? And that's a big question. So, and I don't know if any CEOs are on this now, but I'll make sure they watch it later.
Do you want the students to start, or you want us to chime in?
Maybe if the students want to take a little bit, they might need to take a little bit of time to think
Okay.
about it. Maybe
I'll,
you all can chime in.
I'll
Yeah.
chime in. I mean, I think financially, as someone who brought up, like, how do you take them to New York? We had to fundraise, right? So for companies to sponsor, things like that, because you guys as educators know, like, kids sitting in the classroom day in, day out, like, that's not what they're going to remember at the end of the day. When they graduate high school, it's going to be those unique experiences. It's going to be that field trip that really stood out to them. So, for organizations to donate, for schools to be able to take kids on field trips, or maybe opening up their doors. I actually got to take a group of students on a field trip to visit Intuit's headquarters before the pandemic. And so that was really neat for them. I mean, to be in Silicon Valley and to see their whole, property was amazing. So those kinds of things. And I think volunteers, having people that are willing to mentor students in certain areas. If your organization has an HR department, they're willing to mentor students in that, speciality of HR. And I think in terms of virtual enterprise, I'm sure there's many organizations though that need judges, to judge these competitions that the students are competing in. So I think organizations, companies can support in that way as well, volunteers and judges, mentors.
For sure. Yeah. And I've judged a few, we've definitely judged a few of those. They actually impact us almost as much as they impact the students, I think. It's a big deal. Thank you, Jackie. Paul, or any of the students, Elva, Josh, Derek, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I think a way, like a really good way to support the students would be trying to appeal to the students' interests. So maybe like, let's say, because there are classes, right, that appeals to student interests, but they may not appeal to like the majority. So I think maybe finding that majority could also like help the students focus on like something, right?
Sure.
Also, the field trip, as Jackie was saying, that is a really good way. The mentors, I think, was a very good idea because I think students also need that extra push just to like learn more about a certain topic, and then maybe, you know, they'll just carry on their own.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I wanted to just quickly follow up, and I want to ask Elva and Josh the same thing. What interests you, right? What is you mentioned impacting the community, but maybe if you can help us elaborate a little bit more. I'd love to hear what other things are interesting to you all.
Yeah, so I'm like really interested in like sustainability and like how we can better our planet, just because like the impacts are really showing, like for example, like garbage disposal, pollution, all that. But also to answer your previous question, I think one of the biggest things that teachers can help us with is like staying realistic, because we are still kids with like huge imaginations, and some of our solutions might not be the most like doable. So I think just like helping us like find real solutions, or like making our ideas a little more accurate to the real world. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great.
I was gonna say, my bad. The cool was how like teachers like help us, right? Or what was it again? I'm sorry.
Sorry, what did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Well, I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Yeah, the question is what interests you, and also any feedback you would give to a CEO or to a leader who wants to support students, wants to support you. How can they best support you? So what interests you, and how can leaders support you?
Something that interests me, in all honesty, is I'm not a big fan of learning, to be honest. But those little moments of where if I could have like a moment where a teacher just speaks to me, or just slows down for a second, or in general just actually takes their time to make or help a student understand, that in itself just makes me want to learn more. Uh, I know that like my other peer said that like we're still kids and at the end of the day we still have a massive imagination. I think that in itself is also well like just supporting us like, hey, I like your idea. It might be a little bit too big, but keep thinking. Maybe in the future, I think that like that just that keeps us, you know. I think that's a really good thing because I have ADHD, so I don't like sitting in a class all day and having um to just hear someone talk. You know, I rather just them ask us, make like help, let us participate as well. And I think that's what business is, the participation and wanting to help others or just evolving oneself as well. Because I think that we all can improve in specific areas. And I think that like, especially my teacher, Paul, or Mr. Cellier, as we call him, he definitely helps me in that in many ways.
I love it. And I love that you're honest, and especially with your teacher on the call. I really appreciate you opening up and sharing that. And I think a lot of other students have similar feelings as you do. So, I mean, meeting the students where they are, right? Meeting, helping each student and expanding on the skills that they have. Every skill student has a skill set. I know we're running short on time, so I do want to just open it up to any last thoughts, or if you have any other feedback on how a company like Intuit. I know I see Darren here mentioning some of our resources. I know Jackie and Paul, you've used some of them. If you have any feedback for us on those resources and how a company like Intuit can help you all teach entrepreneurship. Let's have the teachers give some closing thoughts.
I'll chime in real quick here.
Sure,
I paused specifically so I could have the students talk, because I don't want to dominate and the conversation. But Jackie brought up some great points there about support in any form or fashion is useful. Mentorship is great. Kids need to know it's not just the teacher saying this. Because sometimes that's how we come across. Like, oh, it's only you that's saying this. Nobody else is saying this to me. But when more adults kind of chime in and give their points of view, and everybody has a different point of view, right? As Derek mentioned earlier, or Josh mentioned earlier, everybody has a different point of view. Elva mentioned that. We get a better picture of what reality is, okay? I love the kids to venture outside the box. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't have the airplane, we wouldn't have the car, this sort of stuff. We take a lot of these things for granted today, but it's because people thought outside the box and created things that didn't exist before is the reason why we're here today, right? And we have all this great technology around us. So I think the support, like what you guys give us, is great. I would love to see more of it. And that hands-on support, not here's a bunch of money, go spend it on something, but the actual hands-on support where you're there for the kids, you're there for the students. Because, I mean, honestly, as pointed out earlier, they're the future. They're going to be the next employees. So why not groom them from early? Why not give them that exposure? Things like jobs, internships, that sort of stuff, I think speaks volumes, because now they could take what they see in class and actually put it into practice. I had one student in one of my classes that he wanted to be an architect, right? So he was in my business class and he got an internship at Gensler, and he was also in my ACE club, which was an after program that I had. And he kind of fell in love with business. He fell in love with architecture. And I said, well, architecture is a business. Okay. And he was able to get an internship at Gensler, which was a big architectural firm, international architectural firm. They have a branch down here in Los Angeles. And he went in there and, normally they have the internships, filing papers, making coffee, this sort of stuff. And he told one of the guys, I want to learn how to use this 3D machine. And they say, okay, we'll show you how to do it. And next thing you know, he was making 3D models for them, basic models. And he went back like 2 years in a row. He was there doing an internship, and he got better each time. And only just, reinforce what he wanted to do, which was architecture and design. I think that when they have those opportunities to see the actual work in progress and what is achieved, and take nothing and make it into something, they come in with nothing and they leave with something. They realize, wow, I've grown. And I think that helps a lot. So if corporations could get in and actually start helping these kids from an earlier age, I think we would turn out a better employee, a better business person, a leader in our communities. And I think that's what we really need as a community. It's like better leadership overall, more involvement overall.
And I was just going to chime in and say, I really appreciate Intuit's support in terms of wanting to support entrepreneurship and business in our educational system, because this partnership with Intuit and Virtual Enterprise hasn't been around that long. So I've got to see that progression, and it's just great that Intuit wants to put this QuickBooks out there for free for students to be able to use, or teachers to be able to use in their classroom. And students learning QuickBooks is a very marketable skill. They can put it on their resume. So it's just great that Intuit's wanting to do that and letting us in on the design for delight, their design thinking, and we can use that in our classrooms too. So I really appreciate Intuit's support. And yes, my students do use QuickBooks in our virtual enterprise class, and we use Design for Delight as well. So I just really appreciate Intuit support, and I would recommend, yes, if you guys, using those in your classrooms as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
absolutely. Absolutely,
I-
because I use Intuit as well in my accounting class and Design for Delight. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the positive feedback. I think, this webinar is really important for us to be able to touch base with teachers and students on what we can do better. And I think I'm taking good feedback and notes on how we can do better. I know there's a lot that Intuit can improve, and I really want to also share to the students, even though you're young, you've already made an impact on society, on business, on innovation. So it's you've already shaped it, and we're speaking from Intuit's perspective, like we're taking notice for sure. So it's already happening, your impact. I mean, we're talking about 5-10 years. I can't wait to see how much more that even grows. So I want to thank Elva, Derek, Joshua for your time this afternoon, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate it, truly. And I want to thank Paul and Jackie, two incredible teachers who are driving change and are pioneers. So I also want to just extend my appreciation for you both, and to our attendees. I know we're winding down now. We're going to share this recording afterwards and the resources that we have from the Intuit side. I'll also share a little bit about virtual enterprise as well, if any of you are interested to learn more about virtual enterprise. But let's keep in touch, everyone. We're going to do more of these webinars soon. And we have next week a personal finance. No, next week, the week after, there's Thanksgiving next week. No one's going to be on a webinar for Thanksgiving. I know I won't. And but we will hold more of these and continue to support students. So that's my commitment, at least, to you all. Thank you. Okay. Cool.